Good evening, everybody. A warm welcome once again to our Association of Zoologist YouTube channel live series for success stories of zoology alumni. On behalf of AOZ, I welcome you all in today's episode. This is our fourth episode, and I hope that excites you with the announcement that we have with us today one of the eminent scientists of India, who is a CSIR emeritus scientist from University of Mysore, and I hope the interview is going to be very inspiring for all of us. So, those who are new to AOZ and do not have much information related to our association, I would like to share some introduction related to AOZ. So, Association of Zoologists was established in 2019. It's a non-profit organization under the Company Act, and it is all about zoology and zoologists. It's a platform for uplifting the subject and for making and creating opportunities for young minds who are approaching and making their careers in zoology. So we have a structure over here in the association. There are 9 directors from all over Gujarat. The official branch of AOZ is based at Ahmedabad University, Gujarat, and we also have a council wherein we have President Professor PC Mankodi sir, who is the ex head from Department of Zoology, MS University, Vadodara. We also have again General Secretary and Joint Secretary representing different zones of Gujarat. And we have zonal vice presidents representing each part of Gujarat, so that the AOZ association can work everywhere spread in Gujarat and around Gujarat. We are not only open to membership and work for zoology in Gujarat, but also throughout the India as well as abroad. So, what is the basic mission and vision of our association? We are the ones to develop the platform for zoologists and to disseminate the knowledge of contemporary development in the fields of animal science for everybody around. And we also do the same by doing different activities and doing different particular no programs. So to achieve our aims and objectives for zoology, we have initiated and we encourage joint research programs, collaborations. We organize time to time scientific gatherings like seminars, symposia, conferences, workshops at different levels, regional, state level, as well as national level. Now, we also initiate training programs for young zoologists and students studying in undergraduate, postgraduate, as well as research students, scholars from all over India. We look forward to help students in terms of providing small grants, fellowships, and travel assistance as well. And I have a very important and happy announcement to make for students today, that we have collaborated with one of the laboratories based at Ahmedabad. So let me take you to the laboratory. So the Gene Explore Diagnostic and Research Lab. This is the laboratory based at Ahmedabad, and we have AOZ has collaborated with them for one of the workshops to come. That is mammalian cell culture techniques, which is to start from 4th of May. And those who are the life members of AOZ, they are going to get a concession for the training program if they want to participate in this training program. So it's a hands-on training program organized in collaboration with Gene Explore, and we heartily thank the authorities and the research director, Dr. Shiva Chetiyar and Alkesh sir, for this collaborative work with reference to AOZ, and we look forward with them. Also, the testing provided by Gene Explore would be at concessional rates for AOZ life members and AOZ annual members who are going to register with us. So please, if you become a member of AOZ, you are going to avail a lot of such kind of advantages towards making a good career. So where will you be able to contact us? Let me share you some of the details related to that. So those who are willing to be a part of AOZ, you may reach out to us at Zoologist Association 2020 at the rate gmail.com. Presently we have around 60 life members, and if you want to follow us, we are also available on social media like Facebook, Instagram, and definitely YouTube. You can always subscribe and be a member of it. So I request humbly all of the people who are listening today's interview that please become a member of AOZ to avail the advantages and concessions, and to have a lot of different training programs as an participant to increase your and make your resume rich. So now this is about how AOZ has been working past 3 years, and we will not take much time. And I know many of you are excited to actually hear Shivanand Appa sir for the first time onto our platform, related to his journey, how he has reached and became a CSIR emeritus scientist. So I would invite sir presently onto our platform. Good evening, sir.
Evening.
So, a very warm welcome to you, sir, on behalf of AOZ. And we are really obliged, and we heartily thank you for coming onto this platform on such a short notice, being such a busy person.
Thank you, Dr. Nehal.
Sir,
Uh,
yes, sir.
can you hear
No, no.
me?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you, sir.
I think this is a very unique platform you people have created because in many places I see zoologists are lost due to the assault of biotechnology, biochemistry, and modern branches of biology. Many of the zoology students and even teachers do not seem to find an honorable place in modern biology because of their traditional thinking that zoology means just studying animals. So, therefore, the forum you have created, I think, goes a long way in creating awareness and sharing what zoology can offer and how
Yes,
a
yes.
zoology graduate can do great science and how it can offer career in both teaching and research and even in industry, de- depending on what career path you have chosen in research. So therefore, I
Thank you so
congratulate
much,
with
sir.
you for
Yes, yes.
creating this platform. I think long time ago, Dr. Devkar invited me to join this group from Baroda. So that's how I think not many people know about it. I wish this kind of a activity should spread across the country so
Thank
that
you
we
so
become
much,
a
sir.
strong force in the biology of India that takes us forward in years to come.
Thank you so much, sir, for your this kind words, and I'm sure this will encourage many zoologists who feel that the subject is lost. So, everybody, before I start the journey of our guest today, let me introduce his professional career to everybody. He is a person who has been into zoology right from 1970s. So he did his MSc in zoology reproductive biology from University of Mysore. He did his PhD in reproductive biology from the same university, and he holds two postdoctoral, one in molecular biology, again from Auckland University, USA, and one in biochemistry molecular biology, again now same from New Jersey, USA. So he has been exposed to a lot of research tools during his early days, and that has not stopped him working from. He holds 8 patents for discovering different novel molecules with respect to no vertebrate and a lot of animal science work. Now, his basic area of research is into neurobiology, natural bioactive molecules, xenobiotics, nutraceuticals, but obviously reproductive biology, but also in vitro cell modeling, transgenic models of neurodegenerative disorders also. He has been guiding more than 14 PhD students, many MSc dissertation. He was posted as a director grade scientist G for a Department of Food Protectants and Infection Control, CSIR Mysore. Presently, he is an emeritus scientist based in zoology department in University of Mysore. But this doesn't end his no professional achievements. He was a senior visiting fellow for university at Germany under a prestigious scholarship, DARD scholarship, that is German Academic Exchange Service scholarship. And he also was a visiting a professor for taking neurobiology lectures under UGC no scheme for Goa University. He has got a research associateship from NIH USA. So you can see his vast experience from different agencies in different projects, working at different levels into so many allied branches of zoology. So we have a very eminent person who has a great experience in terms of the research and the field that he is into. So I would request everybody, if you have any questions to ask our sir, please put them in the comment box. I will be taking your suggestions, comments, and questions and put forth to sir during the session. So let's begin our journey with sir's journey today. So sir, every time I ask this question to all my guests, that what inspired you to take zoology as your main subject during your formal education?
Uh, See, my first interest in biology was in high school, as you all are taught basic biology in high school. That's when I looked through the microscope, very tiny organism moving in water, paramecium and euglena as we know today. Then I didn't know. I just wondered that there is a whole world of tiny organisms there. Although we see big animals, we never bother about it. So it's so tiny that it's not visible to the naked eye, but it is moving, it is feeding, and this created excitement. The usual way the zoology or biology is taught is descriptive. There is no experiments in high school.
Yes.
And so, unless there is a live zoology or an experimental zoology, students, it will not fire the imagination of a student. So, that is lacking. So it is by looking at this microscope of paramecium or euglena moving, actually, I am seeing live zoology. That excited me. And when once I was done with my high school, when I went to college, I did have teachers who inspired me. Because when we study animals, basically we look at small animals, big animals, tiny animals. We are taught all the variety of animal life, and depending on the teacher, your inspiration into looking at the wonderful world of animals is actually um, the one that creates huge interest in it, because this is a living world. You're actually seeing a living creature. But it is these teachers who also introduced how animals like a cockroach or a frog or a bird has the same fundamental anatomy and physiology, and its ability to live and interact with the environment. That took shape when I was in college, because when you are in high school, you hardly have any awareness. It's only the curiosity and the interest that the teacher or the environment that creates. It's in the college I developed my own interest. I started looking at reading more than what the teacher taught us, but teachers do have a huge influence. And because of this, we had option to go for biology in BSc. In our state, we have botany, zoology, chemistry combination. So after pre-university, which is plus two, I entered BSc. Although we had other options, I come from a village. In fact, I was born into a illiterate rural farmer's family. My father cannot read or write, and I had no exposure to any kind of education, let alone science. So it is when I went to college, I realized there are so many wonderful things in the living world, and the science of studying the animal world excited me so much. Although there are experiments in physics, chemistry, based on the kind of teaching I had, and some of the those days when we were students in the 70s, so there was very little scope for a student to ask teachers. You just follow the teacher. Therefore, I had lots of doubts and many things I never understood in physics and chemistry. So I was lost, although I was inherently interested in every branch of science. But it is biology that was easy to understand. Easy the way it was taught me, it was simpler. So therefore, what you understand, you appreciate. What you appreciate, you start knowing more and pursuing it. This is how biology caught my interest in undergraduate course in BSc. And that paved the way for me. When once I did BSc, then I thought that the way to go forward is to get an advanced degree, the master's degree in zoology or botany, which is biology then. Because in botany and zoology, we studied so much of the animal and plant life that you can choose to do a master's degree either in botany or zoology, depending on your interest. And I chose to do MSc zoology, although I had other options. Because by the time you finish college, you learn that there are so many things that can be done. So I was lucky that I was a topper in my undergraduate. I ended up going to do MSc zoology, although I could do MSc microbiology, MSc botany, and other things. Since zoology was my subject that interested me so much when I was in BSc, I chose to do zoology. So it is during these MSc years I developed interest. Now there is so much that can be done in zoology, that can be learned in zoology, and that there is a whole career out there in zoology. Because all that I knew was that you can only become a lecturer. When I was in BSc, all my lecturers or botany or zoology lecturers were the role models, and my
Mm-hmm.
whole idea was only to become a lecturer, because I didn't know that there is something like science research that can be done. I had no idea. We only used to read about scientists, but that is something which we thought it is beyond our reach or realm. It is only when I started doing my MSc, I learned even research is possible in biology, because I was in a university. Because those days the university departments were top notch, and my teachers had studied in Europe and USA. They had done their PhD. My teacher was one of them, a PhD in Columbia University, a student of Zoology, and I had a teacher who had done PhD in US. Like this, there were so many, and there were the people who were telling us what all science they did, and they were the inspiring people behind my interest in science, particularly in the world of biology through zoology. So it
Yeah.
is during MSc. I also happened to have a stint in Indian Institute of Science as a MSc student. Those are the days they wanted to give a course in biochemistry. UGC thought of a course, so they selected me all over the country. I was one of the few who was selected to take a course between first year MSc and second year MSc in the Indian Institute of Science, Department of Biochemistry, because they thought the biology students need a strong dose of chemistry in order to prepare them for a research career. I was one of the lucky few who could get exposure taught by the biochemistry professors at IASC, starting from lectures, lab, seminar, and even a small lab project. So this, including my broad-based education, zoology, totally kindled my interest that I should become a researcher, a scientist. in
Yeah.
zoology. That led me to pursue PhD. Uh, Although I could join University of Science, but I preferred to join University of Mysore since I could do it fast because University of Science, since I had already spent time, they take a long time. And this is how my zoology education and my teachers who taught me zoology and my exposure to the university environment, the library, and there is so much that need to be explored that can be available to you if you pursue your career in biology in general, zoology in particular, happened to me. That's how I ended up doing PhD, and subsequently, then I realized while doing PhD, you choose a research problem in an area, and
Yes.
this research problem actually has a very wider implications in biology, although it's a very narrow area. See, like in the case of my zoology background, I started doing research on bats to start with. And when I started doing my research in bats, I realized it's a very tough job. I had to go to the field to collect bats, and I collect, and because we were basically interested more in experimental biology than
Hmm.
simply observing in the field. So going to the field was interesting, but it had serious limitations of understanding the biology. We could only correct observations, but we wanted to do more by experimenting on the organism of choice. So this is how I started, but I realized that I had very problem of getting the bats themselves. I spent time, going to the forest and the hills, and there was huge, serious problem. Then I decided that I would not continue with bats if I really have to finish my PhD. Then I chose to do reproductive biology and ecology of reptiles because the first thing is that the availability of the animal or the species,
Yes. Yes.
available species, and this should be worth studying from the point of view of a research problem I've chosen. So that's how I ended up doing PhD, choosing a problem of my choice, and I was able to do very interesting organismic biology in the area of reproductive strategies of tropical Indian reptiles. And that's a time when we contributed significantly towards understanding vertebrate reproduction by publishing in top-rated international journals, for which our work was subsequently recognized in all leading books and journals by all over
Yeah.
the world. So that is how my zoology started. Uh,
Yes.
this is about my zoology. You can
Yeah.
go.
So, friends, Sir's research is much acclaimed. His research has been like cited more than 3,200 times in different literature in more than 24 books, and his top three papers were also considered amongst the top 10 most cited and downloaded papers by Elsevier. So he has came from a village and reached to the level of being a scientist at this level. So don't undermine your potential. No, you can do the same if you input the hard work and remain focused. Now, sir, one particular thing that you have been telling just now is that there is a lot of things that excites somebody when they do experimental biology. So from that point of view, zoology has usually the animals to offer once the students in their graduation or post graduation undergo animal study. Then I think that is the most exciting part they can really relate to. And unfortunately in India, the dissections of the animals are banned. So what is your opinion on to this? How can we improvise the situation? And how do you put the ban on dissection? Do you think that it's really that vital, or what can be the actual solution to this?
Yeah, this is a very critical issue. This is one of the greatest handicaps in today's teaching zoology. It's also one of the greatest misfortunes that has befallen us to teach zoology and to do zoology. The reason is any branch of science should have an experimental approach. And in the case of zoology, we need to understand an animal uh, only by looking at its anatomy, its structure and function. Without understanding the structure and function, whether it's a rat or a cat or a human, you cannot understand its biology. If you do not understand its biology, you cannot understand the disease. You cannot understand the process of evolution. You cannot understand the basis of heredity. So, therefore, the whole living world of the animal kingdom, the knowledge that is born not only by looking at the structure, function, and the evolution has designed variety of animals that adapt to various environments. So, this idea of closing or banning deceptions is very bad in principle, is wrong in the perception. And this was not mooted by anybody except the superficial understanding of cruelty. Because there was it's a Western concept where cruelty to animals caught the imagination through public media of people in the visual field, in the movie stars, and opinion makers who said who showed that a monkey is used to treat a drug and they put chemicals in its eyes, and the complete wrong understanding and bad publicity that people insult or treat animals in a very cruel way to do science, even in research and in teaching, has led to this phenomenon. And the politicians who do not have background about biology or zoology, they do not understand such an issue, but it is a law that has been passed from the Parliament of India due to a politician who had no clear understanding of how we use animals in research, how you use animals. They only know what has been shown by in some quarters and somewhere. The point is, if you do not have vaccine, millions of people will be dead. How did vaccine come? Vaccine come only because they tested it animals. You get a treatment for diabetes. You get a hormone from the insulin hormone that is given as injection. How was it discovered? It was discovered in dogs. If dogs were prevented from being used, and there would be no discovery of diabetes. And the fundamental mechanisms of the living body, the human body, were discovered in the animal world. How our nervous system works, how the nerve impulse is propagated, was discovered from from a giant neuron of a squid, which is a marine invertebrate. So the thing is, zoologists gave models to study the structure function of the human body and the animal body. See, the nerve impulse is the same whether it is in an insect, whether it's a fly, a fish, or humans in the brain. And this was discovered using animal models because you can't open human skull and try to look at how the brain works. So we use animals. So even from the perspective of understanding human biology, human nature, human anatomy, human disease, human understanding of the cures for diseases is based on studies on the animal models. So without animal models, you cannot experiment on human beings. That is one aspect. Second aspect is the studying of the living world, whether it is a domestic animal or whether it's a wild animal, whether it is animal that is native to your country, which is so important. If you really want to save these endangered species, you need to know their biology. Of
Yes.
course, field biology does not require the dissection of animals. So this world of cruelty misunderstanding of cruelty by scientists should be in the light of cruelty that we inflict on animals when we use kill them in millions for our food. How poultry is maintained in a poultry shed, how they are taken, how the cattle are taken for a slaughterhouse, how they are treated. So this is real cruelty. So the cruelty ban imposes on animals. Even putting an animal in confinement is cruelty. You have no right to confine animal in a very small space.
Mm-hmm.
And cruelty has is a very wide definition. So choosing zoology students as the agents of cruelty is totally wrong because the amount of injury or cruelty as they feel created is very very little because a sacrifice is necessary in terms of understanding without looking at it. See, if you injure a body part and you have to do dissection of the body part to treat it,
Mm-hmm.
and if you don't want to feel the injury and the pain, we give anesthesia. So that is not cruelty. We want to make the person not feel the pain only by giving anesthesia. We do the same thing for experimental surgery. So the pain that is created in order to discover a drug, understand a disease, is essential process of scientific research. So if you don't do this, if you don't teach this in the classroom, you are actually creating, it is like a virtual world.
Yeah.
You don't understand anything without knowing it. It's like you never meet a person, you only meet in the computer. So this needs to be understood in the right context, and I think our scientific community has failed to show its dissent or its opinion. And some of our own people, by the very narrow understanding, have voted that we can substitute dissection with a virtual dissection, which is not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole idea is we need to have a balance. A blanket ban on dissection is totally wrong thing to do. You can reduce wherever it is necessary, but we need to have a balance. You need to actually consult concerned people in order to arrive at a curriculum where practicals based on animal dissection should not be banned. You are killing the animal. Let's, for example, a rat that is born in
Yeah.
a in an animal house does not know the freedom. We don't bring the rat from wild and give it for experiments. So you grow poultry, it is born and brought up there only to be killed. You grow sheep only to be killed. Are we not creating cruelty? So the whole idea is the real definition necessary to define based on the context for educating is very much needed.
Yes, sir. So that is how, no, when I visited abroad, I have seen like even for in their museums, they are using animal dissection to show the layman how things are working. And here we are not able to show it to our students who actually are studying this particular science. So really, we need to think and do some brainstorming on this, whether
This
dissections
requires,
should be there or
this
not.
requires a separate session where you need to have people to speak on the subject.
Surely, sir. I put this as a suggestion to AOZ that we can have a discussion panel on dissections, whether they should be banned in India or not, and we can invite eminent people around to discuss on the floor. Thank you for that suggestion. This would definitely be noted today. And sir, you have been through so much of research, and your journey started from PhD, and then many students they actually aspire to do postdoctoral studies. At least if even if they reach once, they are very happy, and you got to do it twice. So I would like to ask you, like, how has been that experience of undertaking a postdoctoral study in some other country?
You know, when you do science, although you work on a narrow problem, you get to learn many things. See, when I was a MSc student, my teacher who was teaching me pituitary gonadal axis, that means how the brain, the pituitary gland in the brain
Yeah.
controls through its hormones entire functions of the body, including
Hmm.
reproduction. And this part of the brain called hypothalamus, how it controls a gland that secretes the hormone. This was taught in the classroom theory. And in the practicals, my teacher asked me to make a section of the brain showing the brain, hypothalamus, and pituitary, and showing where the hormone is produced and which is the controlling center for the pituitary gland, and how this hormone will influence the other organs. So we even did an experiment. You remove the pituitary experimentally and see the testes or ovary will lose their functions. Testis will lose its ability to produce sperms, and the ovary will lose its ability to produce eggs. This is a very simple way to demonstrate that pituitary controls testis and ovary. One example. This was done in a frog. They did hypophysectomy, that is, surgical removal of the pituitary gland, and show after a couple of weeks how it affects your ovary. And by injecting the pituitary back into the animal which has lost its pituitary gland, remember this is an animal which is live, which
Yes.
is maintained, and then injecting the pituitary extract which contains the hormone restores, brings back the ability of the testis and the ovary to produce the gametes or the sperm and egg. This actually excited as a MSc student. This is one way experiment to demonstrate, and it is the same thing that happens in humans. Whether it happens in fish, we demonstrated it in frog. Same thing happens in nature. So the fundamental biology of the animal world, even extrapolatable to humans, is understood based on experimental techniques in the laboratory. And when I looked at the structure of this hypothalamus pituitary, I was so excited as a student. That actually prompted me to take studies for my research topic, reproduction, how a species produces its young, and how one species produces many young ones. Some species produce only one. For example, humans produce only one, monkeys produce only one, cat produces many, frogs produces thousands of eggs and thousands of frogs. Fish produces thousands, even millions. So how the animal world is the same phenomenon. The reproduction involves reduction in the offspring by producing eggs and leaving it to nature to take care of itself till the egg is given a protection in the form of a eggshell, like in the case of reptiles and birds, so that you need not have to produce thousands, but produce a few, minimize your reproductive wastage to ensure the success of the offspring. Ultimately, evolution of viviparity, what we call the animal that is confined within the womb of the female, is ultimately the evolution of reproductive strategy where even just one or two is enough because you are sure you are completely taking care till it is produced to it is delivered to the real world, the external world. So these are the exciting things from the biological viewpoint of view, from the evolutionary point of view. But when you actually study how exactly it has happened, what are the hormones that are involved, how the same hormone that produces lactation in the mammals is controls salt balance in fish, prolactin, for example. Those of you who teach zoology, how evolution has equipped the animal kingdom to discover, adapt to an environment where reproduction has changed when animals colonize land. Reproduction in water is so different and the challenges faced by terrestrial life, reproduction on land. You cannot produce the young ones and leave it. So this actually interested me so much. But subsequently, the training I have had in understanding experimental biology led me to do much more work when I actually got an opportunity to do my research uh, uh, when I had to do something else. So I was hired in CSIR, where my job was to understand how a contaminated food affects your body, how food is contaminated with pesticides that affects your health, and what is health, something that affects your liver, something that affects your kidney, something that affects your reproduction or the brain, and how do you understand the effect of an undesirable constituent or a adulterant in the food, which is a poison, and what is a poison, why it is toxic, what makes a chemical toxic. These were fundamental questions which ultimately answer the essentials of ensuring safe food for you, safe drug for you. This is how I entered in the field of toxicology, understanding what makes a chemical toxic. Although it is both basic and an applied research, my training in zoology helped me to understand what actually is happening in the liver, what actually is happening in the testis, what actually is happening in the brain. You can look at what is happening, alterations, you can study the biochemical basis of such alteration, and how can we know something is safer? What is the dose that makes it safer? That is how the whole field of toxicology was so important understanding safe food, a safe drug. This is the area which interested me, which took me along to understand the basics of biochemistry and how the biochemical basis of toxicity is understood, and the basic enzymatic mechanisms that were involved in metabolizing a toxic chemical to make it non-toxic, how the interactions of nutritional substances can affect the ultimate toxicity, and how can we design a safer drug or a safer medicine, safer pesticide. How can we make an effective pesticide which kills insects but does not affect humans? And these are the areas that interest me, which took me a long way to understand the basic biochemistry and cell biology of interacting cellular structure and function versus exposure to the environment. So when once you do the fundamentals, because that fundamental is given to you in your MSc and PhD. So no matter what field, although I had no idea about how one studies toxicology. See, medical toxicology people study mainly from the basis of drug toxicity. But whether a drug is toxic to rat or a man is fundamentally the same. So the basic discovery of toxicity, mechanisms of toxicity and safety are understood in the animal system, and it is extrapolated to human system. Ultimately, when once you research tells you that it is safe, you apply it to humans. So this broad training in me gave me an opportunity to do postdoctoral research, where someone is looking for studying certain projects where molecular biology and biochemistry are involved. So I was lucky to be selected, where I would learn many advanced. See, basically, when you do a postdoctoral research, you don't choose a problem. The problem that is already chosen, you are hired based on your technical expertise, your ability to do experiments, perform scientific research on your own with very little, because in PhD you are supposed to be trained already. So that's how I had opportunity to learn advanced areas in molecular biology. Those days in the 80s, molecular biology just beginning to take shape.
Yes, yes.
So I also would like to mention for those who are probably listening that the discovery of DNA as the hereditary material was possible due to the educational background of Watson. Many people do not know that Watson had a MSc in zoology. Many people do not know.
This
And
is really awesome to hear. Even I didn't knew this.
yes,
Although I
yes,
belong to
I can tell.
biotechnology.
And if Watson had not done zoology, I tell you, you would not know that nucleus contains DNA and it is so important that contains the information molecule called DNA. And this is when he just had read about Hershey's experiments. He also did PhD in microbiology. He did MSc in zoology, PhD in microbiology. He was a student of Luria. And when he did this postdoctoral, and when he met Crick, he told them, look, there is an interesting challenge in biology. We do not know what is the hereditary material. Now, recently, people seem to have discovered in bacteria that it is the DNA that carries the hereditary. Till then, people knew it is either protein or nucleic acid that's in DNA. You know all those stories. So, it is the idea that Watson had, but the Crick had the tools. Crick had no idea about what is heredity. See, when Mendel discovered loss of heredity, he had no idea about genes. Okay. Subsequently, when Morgan discovered mutations, it was also the time when we did not know much about the genetic basis of heredity, but mutation as a change of genetic unit in Drosophila is the basis of heritable change was the discovery. Therefore, this idea came from people who did zoology. And if you do zoology, it's so broad based depending on where you study that you can do anything. I'll give you another example. It's a very well known recent Nobel Prize was given to green fluorescent protein as a probe, which is used everywhere in molecular biology, medicine, diagnostics. This green fluorescent protein was known to zoologists. Zoologists know that it is coelentrates which produce a specific bioluminescent protein. It is the biochemists who had the tools to isolate the protein and use it, cloned it, molecular biology. So the early molecular biology was by genetics and zoology people. And if you do zoology, you can do any aspect of biology. Depending, you can learn because it gives you a perspective, broad-based training in zoology.
Yes.
For example, when I was discussing something with a biochemistry professor, no, about some unique phenomenon in the animal world, like we discovered uh, 30, 40 years ago, that sperms are stored in the female genital tract for as long as 6 months. Female genital tract is a place where sperms cannot survive for more than 48 hours. But reptiles store sperms and produce fertilized eggs when males cannot mate. This is a very unique phenomenon that are present in certain species like reptiles. So the fundamental question is sperm cannot survive at room temperature in an hostile place called female genital tract. What is the mechanism that is responsible? Can we use that mechanism to store human sperms? That is application. But how did the evolution discover such a wonderful mechanism where females can retain sperms and there is no need for females and they can continue to lay more eggs during off season when the males cannot mate because reproduction is seasonal in most of the animals. So when I told this biochemistry friend of mine, he was surprised. How is it possible? Because he only knew human, sperms and all that, and immediately he wanted to do research on it. So why I'm saying this is zoologists know so many curious things which are useful. For example, bioluminescence. It was known to zoologists. And today, bioluminescence is used in modern biology in a very big way. Luciferin system. So, zoologists get to know so many wonderful things which are so useful to discover that could be applied for the benefit of mankind in medicine, for example. So, zoology, the way it should be taught can include the both applied and classic zoology, which actually gives the students the ability to undertake diverse problems in the research career. I'm not talking about teaching. What you learn based on syllabus, you teach. But what you teach is important because you cannot train a student who is useless. You cannot produce an MSc zoology who is unemployable. So you also should produce scientists who can discover. So there is an employability factor. There is a factor capability building of a nation. If you want to understand the biology of tiger, you need a MSc zoologist. If you want to understand how the brain works, it's a zoologist student who can work. So zoology student can do tiger research, which is only field observation, at the same time brain research. So I have been able to do research from lambda phage E. coli, frog, reptile, bird, and mammal. I have done histology to dissecting a gene.
Mhm.
Okay, staining to sequencing a gene, purifying a big molecule to a small molecule. And that was possible only because I have learned, because everything is not taught you in zoology. So if you have a basic biology training and chemistry training, you are capable of learning, adapting yourself to a new problem you want to explore. As you know, that my recent area of bioactive molecules is something which is an emerging field in the country. We have a huge plant wealth which have been used in medicine since ancient times.
Yes.
But we never discovered any medicine out of any plant. Say curcumin, which is produced from your turmeric, is not
Yes.
our discovery. But we knew the use of curcumin for thousands of years. So the curcumin was discovered by Germans. So azadirachtin, our name is used for traditional various means. The molecule azadirachtin was discovered by Germans. So why I am saying this is, although we have ancient knowledge of use of plants, we have not discovered, because modern science requires that you identify the molecule that gives that plant the molecule which has a potential for health as a drug or as a nutraceutical. So the discovery of these novel molecules is a challenging field and it's a gray area in Indian science. And this is where I entered this area where a lot of chemistry is required. I learned my chemistry, and I knew biology, and I was able to discover many molecules which are new to science. So if
Yes.
I can do it, anybody can do it. I have not done any magic. I've done only science. So, so my background in zoology has not prevented me from doing things, but basically it is my background that gave me the strength, ideas, that this is a molecule that can prevent neurodegeneration. Because I know what a neuron is. I know I can understand neurodegeneration better than someone who has never dissected a
Done it.
brain or a neuron.
Yes.
But I have learned the tools in biochemistry and chemistry to do the science where I have a molecule I can study whether it can protect against neurodegeneration. Neurodegeneration, which is responsible for many neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's diseases. So both fundamental research and applied research of discovery of new molecules that could prevent disease or even cure disease is possible from biologists. After all, you do not get specific training for any specific discovery. You have a broad-based training. And zoology, in particular, can really help a student to acquire both perspective, knowledge, ideas, and he can acquire the tools as he goes along. And that is what I have done.
Yeah, it is so inspiring to hear you, sir. And I really feel so proud that we are all coming from zoology after you are no you're listening to what you are saying with reference to the subject. So, sir, as you have been so much into the depth of the research, what would be your key advice for the young researchers or students who really want to contribute something in the field of research, how they should proceed to know work in the field of research?
Okay, there are many aspects to it. Number one, let us not produce too many MSc zoology, substandard zoology students in colleges, and the policymakers have no vision. And you
Yeah.
produce a substandard MSc zoology, make them apply for a clerical post. You have given training in animal science. So that's the first thing, because you don't give 1,000 seats to medical people. and you don't produce a doctor who will apply for clerical post. So we should not produce or overproduce, reduce or degrade the quality of zoology, for that matter any science. More so in zoology because we are talking about zoology. Number one. Number two, teach zoology with both classical and modern approach.
Hmm.
Number three, there are a lot of opportunities this country can provide because the kind of animal wealth we have, very few countries in the world have. Today, we are more comfortable identifying two molecules but not two species of insects. So if you find the insects, you cannot identify. But you talk about two genes and molecules, we are comfortable talking about it. So we have more of emphasis on molecules and genes, very little on actual organismic
Yes.
biology. Taxonomy
Yeah.
is dead. So today you even ZSI has serious limitations. So we don't teach taxonomy. So if somebody has to identify a plant, now there are no people in botany department in the university level to identify plants. So by treating as a second grade discipline, we have killed certain disciplines.
Yeah.
But Britain and America has not killed them. So we send our species, our specimens for them to identify. So identifying our own fauna and flora requires expertise that is produced in our master's degree. That is number one. Number two, we cannot train students who do not find opportunities. So
Hmm.
the training and the syllabus has to be a combination of both classical and modern biology, but not at the cost of fundamentals. Because I see the zoology syllabus varies so much that in certain aspects of teaching are completely left out. So the quality of teaching, designing the syllabus, and the experiments that are taught for a zoology students has to be really revised. It requires a separate system for experts to do this. And the quality of education should find its tools not only in India, elsewhere from the employability. So both as a teaching and the research career, zoology has got options, and the kind of animal wealth we have and the natural wealth we have, conservations that are issues that are ahead of us, and wildlife that are available to is one area where zoology can have a lot of scope.
Hmm.
And very little is thought about this, although there are certain universities which offer one or two with MSc in wildlife biology. So any zoology person can do wildlife because wildlife is study of specific group of animals that are in the wild. Where in MSc you should treat ecology, we used to do a lot of ecology. So ecology, evolution, biodiversity, taxonomy are essential in zoology, along
Hmm.
with physiology, biochemistry, molecular biology, and genetics. This is the area in which a lot of exercise has to be done. Therefore, I would still exercise my opinion that you need to really review how we teach zoology, how we train
Yeah.
zoology students.
Yeah.
That is very
But
important.
this is from the point of view of how the education system should involve in terms of zoology. But what would you say to the students? How the students should do their preparation so that they come up with some good research and, as in zoologists, the way you have come up.
The, see, the whole idea starts in MSc. The kind of MSc you do gives you an opportunity to do science you choose to do. MSc, any branch of biology. Zoology is one such branch where you
Hmm.
end up competing with biotechnology, biochemistry. But you have certain attributes which biochemistry or biotechnology students do not have. If you ask a biochemistry student, what is the difference between a fish and a rat, he won't know. So if a research has to be done on a fish, a zoology student is better equipped than a biochemistry student. Even if you do
Yeah.
biochemistry and physiology of the fish. Okay, so therefore, the student who does research, who takes up research as a career, will have options to go for research areas in many institutes, like we have ICERs. Okay, now you have CSR labs, and now they all club under life sciences. They do not have separate exam for zoology. Zoology, botany, biochemistry, they all come under life sciences. But zoology can really equip you to take
Hmm.
challenges in modern biology.
Yeah, yeah. Very true. Yes, sir. So, on that note, what would be... Hello, can you hear me,
Hello?
sir? Yeah,
Yeah, I can
yeah.
hear you.
Yeah. So, sir, how much no weightage would you give to a preparation in terms of reading research papers or reading books for our students who are maybe UG students or PG students or maybe PhD scholars? How far you would advise them how much they should go for the practices of reading in terms of doing their research discovery or maybe getting some fundamental aspects related to the subject?
See, if one wants to choose research as a career, they have to take exams. And in the
Okay.
exams and syllabus, that has also a lot of zoology, genetics, cell biology, which are taught. And depending on Google and very superficial knowledge that you can get is not enough. One have to spend time with books.
Yeah.
And if it is research, anything research related to the research, one has to study all the literature that goes into. So one is starting to enter research. Another after entering research, how do you do it? That depends on your supervisor and you.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
the supervisor has an idea, you can appreciate, understand, and contribute your might in furthering the understanding of the chosen problem. Okay. Or you can always, if you develop the knowledge, you can always interact with your supervisor. But for that, you need to have knowledge, you need to study, you need to read and understand. And reading
Okay.
is very, very important. One of the things that I see is a lot of students do not read much, particularly these days of Google. And what you
Yeah.
get from Google is not sufficient. You need to read literature, hardcore science subjects, you need to read papers, you need to read books. So one is entering research, you have to qualify in the exam. Another is after entering research, how do you succeed to publish papers? And
Yeah.
publishing papers in eminent journals, you are competing with the best in the world. So that requires a good idea. What is the question you have asked in your research is more important than what has already been done. Somebody did it in X, I do it in Y. That is not going to help. So, mind you, research is should be curiosity driven. It should be towards discovery. And if you do not do quality science, if you do not ask a original question, you are not likely to come up with the innovative answers or solutions to the problem. So, thinking new ideas is always the first thing. And doing it research in the university has its own limitations, I know, therefore, you have to be very original in your ideas. Doing it research in established institutions where you have a lot of facilities is a different matter. University students have a lot of issues in this regard. There, your idea has to be really original. It's possible to do it.
Okay, okay. And sir, you have been exposed to Germany because of one of the scholarships you received, and also you were a postdoc in US, and you did extensive work in India also. So, how do you put this three nations, no experience? How do you feel how the world is moving in terms of science nowadays?
See, science is truly international. There is no
Okay.
concession for poor science because you come from a poor country. Science is about coming out with new knowledge. Science is about solving a problem.
Mm.
Science is about discovery. And technology is about application of science. So,
Yeah.
strength of a nation, therefore, is made in the laboratory, in the classroom. Okay. The country which is not strong in science and technology cannot hope to be a strong nation, strong
Hmm.
economy. Okay, forget about those who became rich by selling oil, but their inherent strength is poor. Somebody has to go and set up their machinery. So your capability in technology is based on your capability in science. Science and technology go hand in hand, not only in the physical sciences, also in the biological sciences, in the medical sciences. So therefore, vaccine production and dealing with our COVID is a wonderful example how our science capability went a long way in our indigenous ability to deal with a huge world problem. So
Yeah.
therefore, doing science, creating a science workforce, creating a knowledge force is vital to a nation. And therefore, fundamental science is necessary in order to produce applied science. We need to have a balance both.
Yeah, so true. So true. Yes. So, sir, we have a question in the comment box. Srinivasan Murthy Prakash, he's asking a question to you that nowadays we hear a lot about infertility, both in men and women. Does this have any relationship to the way of day-to-day life?
Yes, of course. Of course. Infertility could be a problem which is increasing a lot these days. And it is a problem due to the lifestyles. It's a problem due to the stress factor. It's a problem to the postponement of marriageable age. Fertility declines with age, and it's also the problem due to lot of medication that we are going through. So
Okay.
the problem of infertility is something that needs to be understood in the context. Other than the genetic factors are responsible for only a small fraction of infertility. Infertility in the both in the male females is a
Okay.
issue that is a lifestyle disorder that has nutritional component, that's a medicine component, that's a stress component, and depending on the situation, we need to assess the situation and only offer solution. And what is the preventive measure that needs to? This is actually the part of it is taught in certain universities. So
Oh,
infertility, because you understand fertility first, then you understand infertility. Okay, so infertility as a consequence of loss of fertility, and loss of fertility as a consequence of lifestyle, hormonal disturbances, disorders due to the lifestyles, medications, nutrition, stress. These are all a very complex thing because you can't pin down to one factor. And how we can improve. Some solutions are possible. Some circumventing a solution through in vitro fertilization is one issue which only zoology people discovered in vitro fertilization.
yeah.
Zoology people who discovered test tube babies, zoology people who discovered stem cell biology. Later, everybody else jumped in. So I'm telling you again, zoology that gave rise. We call it stem cell biology. We studied it in embryology. How a certain cell in a frog, if you remove and put it in elsewhere, produce the whole part of the body. So we learned about totipotency, pluripotency then. It's only modern science given us modern tools to understand and use it for solving the human problems, including fertility. But so therefore, the very idea of stem cell came from zoologists. It
Yes.
did
Yes.
not come from people who studied any other branch of biology. So
Yeah.
that's a very good example. A Nobel Prize was given for the person who discovered how the frog embryo developed. You know, he is a British scientist, and it was his PhD probably in 1952. So you know the famous experiments
Yeah.
done by him on frogs. Okay, so I am saying again, the equipping the student with the knowledge, because many of the embryologists who work in in vitro fertilization are zoology students who are PhDs in zoology. They are not medical doctors. Okay, so he will not be able to know the difference between a fertilized and unfertilized egg, and So it is zoologist who has had a training. Okay, that's very important. So therefore, infertility is an issue where zoology has a big component. Even today's assisted reproductive technology is possible only by embryologists who are trained zoologists, specialists.
Yeah, thank you so much for that answer, sir. So, friends, I'll once again inform you that in collaboration with Gene Explore Diagnostic and Research Center Private Limited, based at Ahmedabad, Gujarat, we are organizing a collaborative a training program on mammalian cell culture techniques, which will start from 4th of May. And if you are a life member of AOZ, you can avail the concessions for this particular training program. It's an hands-on training. So those who are yet not the member of AOZ, you can please register yourself using the email ID displayed onto your screens presently. Now mail us and we'll send you the details of becoming a life member of AOZ, and you can continuously avail different opportunities through our platform. uh, uh, this was about the new aspect, that is new collaboration that we had undertaken. And sir, we are moving on to the end of our today's wonderful session with you. So one last question on behalf of all the people who are a part of zoology: what keeps you going so long into your study? So how are you continuing no, with your own work presently?
The thing is, if you are bitten by curiosity,
Mhm.
it always the works in your mind. You always want to keep exploring. That's the reason. Although I retired more than 10 years ago, so I continued to work because CSR gave me an opportunity, and the university hosted me. I continue to write. Even now, I'm writing research papers, and many people do. It's not a culture in India, basically. The
Yes.
reason is we have a bureaucratic system, we have a social structure which does not always recognize people who have excelled. When once you are 60, you are gone, you're finished.
Yeah. Mhm.
In science, if you are a teacher or researcher, 60 doesn't finish you off. Your knowledge is ripe for exploring. And if you are 60, you have learned so much that you are a knowledge base, you are a knowledge source, and you should be available to create more knowledge. And but not everybody gets a chance because unfortunately only few get the opportunity to do so. And UGs and CSR selects only very few people. And yeah, many people after retirement do not always be productive. There are various factors. So therefore, but this should continue. In fact, I'm the first one in this university who has spent 10 years after retirement, and produced 8 PhDs, wrote 42 research papers, and you still continue to do it. And I've interacted with colleagues. The reason I do it simply because I don't know any other way of spending time except doing science. And I love and I enjoy doing it, and I have opportunity to do it. And so I should thank CSIR and the university so that it gave me an opportunities where I could be more useful as a scientist who could contribute to the knowledge of the country of the university and
Yeah.
help students explore the career further.
So, sir, we have Dr. K.S. Raghunandan. He is asking you that what message you would give to zoology teachers.
Oh, it's a very difficult question. Be a good teacher because teaching zoology you read and teach, but the teacher should himself be completely inspired, and an inspired teacher should transmit the inspiration to students. First, you should be excited. If you don't do it as a job, You should be in love with zoology. If you are in love with the zoology, you appreciate, you admire, you become possessed by that, and you are able to experience it and transmit to the student. That's the only way a great teacher makes a difference. Of course, there are many good teachers who do a sincere job, who do an honest job. That's different. We need them also. But a great teacher is one who inspires, who himself should be inspired, who makes the students think. Because ultimately, love or hatred or a dislike towards a subject is due to a teacher, more so in your formative years. That's what I say that what makes a great zoology or any teacher for that matter.
Thank you so much, sir. It was indeed a very inspirational talk today, and I'm
Thank you.
sure that all our viewers and all the people who are connected to this session are really going to find some life lesson to go forward, no, from the place where they are. So, thank you so much once again on behalf of AOZ and the whole of zoology community. You came and gave so much valuable not only information but shared your experiences and your no in-depth knowledge for our platform today, and that was really very very obligatory as well as grateful from our side. So I'm sure friends, you are liking our series. Please continue commenting and sharing the links to others who have missed today's session. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, become members of AOZ, and we'll once again come to you with another beautiful session in the end of May, once again with another guest who is going to be equally inspiring. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, sir. Have a nice time. Good night, sir.